Have you ever found yourself struggling to open a simple jar or dropping your keys just because your hands don't feel as strong as they used to? It's a quiet frustration that many of us over 65 know all too well. Maybe you've told yourself, this is just part of getting old. But what if that's not the whole story? What if losing grip strength isn't simply because we're aging or slowing down, but because of something much easier to fix than you think? Many people overlook how important grip strength is, not just for daily tasks but for maintaining independence and confidence. It's one of those things that seems small until suddenly it feels like everything is harder. The good news is, this isn't a problem you have to accept quietly or helplessly. In this video, I'm going to share my journey. How at 85, I managed to regain the strength in my hands using one simple food. You'll learn why grip strength matters so much for seniors and how a few small changes can make a big difference. By the end, I'll tell you exactly what I ate every day that helped me turn things around. So, if you've been feeling frustrated or worried about your hand strength, stick with me. We're in this together, and there's hope for stronger hands ahead. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. Have you ever found yourself standing in the kitchen, both hands tightly gripping the lid of a stubborn pickle jar, only to feel your fingers ache and your wrists tremble? Maybe you try one more time, straining with all your might, and then, defeated, you quietly set the jar aside, telling yourself you'll ask someone else for help later. Or maybe you simply give up and choose something else for lunch. These moments might seem small or trivial at first, but they slowly pile up, day by day, chipping away at your sense of independence. You're not alone in this. For years, I brushed off these little defeats. I'd drop a mug, fumble with my keys, struggle to open a bag of dog food, or feel my hand slip while carrying groceries from the car. Each time, I would laugh it off or pretend it was nothing. After all, isn't this just part of getting older? Most of my friends, neighbors, and even my brother would say, that's just life after 70. What can you do? So, I believed it. I chalked it up to age, thinking maybe this is just the natural course for our bodies. But what if that's not the whole story? What if hand weakness isn't just a matter of getting old? Could there be more to it, something we can change? For so long, I never questioned this silent decline. I didn't realize that letting go of small things, like the strength in our hands, could slowly erode not just our independence, but also our confidence, our mood, and even our connection with others. So let's stop for a moment and ask a different question. Is it true that we have no choice but to accept weak hands as a fact of aging? Or is there a simple, overlooked cause that, once addressed, could help us regain not just our grip but also a sense of control over our lives? Let's take a closer look at what's happening beneath the surface. Our bodies, especially as we pass 65, undergo changes that aren't always obvious until one day, a familiar task suddenly feels impossible. The decline in hand strength isn't simply about muscles fading away. Many studies, including research from the National Institute on Aging, show that what we often see as inevitable weakness is often related to things we can influence. Here's the science. Put simply, as we get older, the muscles in our hands and forearms do lose some mass. But this loss is accelerated not only by age, but by inactivity, inflammation, and, perhaps most importantly, a lack of certain nutrients that support healthy muscle and nerve function. For many seniors, something as simple as low magnesium or zinc can cause muscle cramps, tingling, and weakness in the hands. Poor circulation, which becomes more common with age, also means your hands aren't getting the oxygen and nutrients they need to stay strong and responsive. Even mild dehydration, which sneaks up easily as we age, can sap your grip. Another hidden culprit is that, as we get older, we tend to move less. Maybe it's arthritis slowing us down, maybe it's fear of falling, or maybe it's just the comfort of routine. But when our hands aren't used as much, no more garden chores, no more woodworking, not even cracking walnuts during the holidays, our bodies quietly let those muscles slip away. It's a classic case of use it or lose it, and most of us don't realize how quickly that decline can accelerate if we're not careful. But here's the part that most people miss. Our diet plays a much bigger role in maintaining strength than we've been told. Modern diets, especially for seniors, often lack enough high-quality protein and minerals, nutrients our hands need to rebuild and repair. That's why, Even if you do hand exercises, you might not see the progress you want if your body doesn't have the building blocks to get stronger. Now, I know all this sounds a bit discouraging. But what truly surprised me, and what I want you to remember, is that this isn't the end of the story. You don't have to resign yourself to asking for help every time you need to open a jar or tie your shoelaces. There are gentle, practical steps you can take, starting today, to give your hands a second chance. Let me share what worked for me. After years of frustration and half-hearted attempts to just live with it, I came across something so simple that I almost dismissed it. One afternoon, I was visiting my daughter and noticed her making a snack with pumpkin seeds. She sprinkled them on her salad, tossed a handful into her yogurt, and even baked them into homemade bread. Curious, I asked her why she liked them so much. She explained how pumpkin seeds are a rich source of magnesium, zinc, and healthy fats, all nutrients that support muscle and nerve health. Skeptical, I started adding a small handful of pumpkin seeds, just about an ounce, a day to my routine. I mixed them into my oatmeal in the morning, added them to salads at lunch, and kept a small container by my favorite chair to snack on in the evening. At first, I didn't notice much. But after a few weeks, a small miracle happened. One morning, I reached for my coffee mug and realized my hand felt steadier. A few days later, I opened a stubborn jar of peanut butter on my own. No tapping it with a spoon, no running it under hot water, no calling my son to help. It wasn't just my hands that improved. My mood lifted. I started feeling more confident doing little things around the house, carrying laundry, sweeping the porch, and even working in the garden again. I realized I wasn't just regaining strength in my hands. I was reclaiming a piece of my independence. My story isn't unique. I remember talking to my neighbor, Walter, who's a retired mechanic. At 81, he had stopped working on his old car because his hands would cramp up and tools would slip from his fingers. He told me he missed the feeling of fixing things, of being useful. When I shared my pumpkin seed routine, he shrugged it off at first. "I've tried everything, you know." But after a few weeks of adding them to his breakfast cereal, he knocked on my door one Saturday morning with a big grin. "Guess who just changed his spark plugs for the first time in 3 years?" He beamed. That moment wasn't about car repairs. It was about hope. Of course, pumpkin seeds aren't magic, and they won't solve every problem overnight. But making a small, consistent change, whether it's eating more nuts and seeds, drinking plenty of water, or gently exercising your hands every day, can add up to something much bigger over time. So if you've been quietly frustrated by weak hands, or if you've caught yourself sitting out of life's little pleasures because you're worried you might drop something, I want you to know you're not alone. More importantly, you're not powerless. Sometimes the answer isn't a fancy gadget or a new prescription. It's a return to something simple and natural, a reminder that our bodies are still capable of change. Please, don't let these small defeats define you. Every day is a new opportunity to rebuild strength, confidence, and joy. If I can do it at 85, and if my neighbor Walter can do it in his 80s, you can too. Start today with a handful of pumpkin seeds or any nutrient-rich snack you enjoy. Give your hands the support they need, and you just might surprise yourself with what you can do. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Remember, age is just a number, and it's never too late to get your grip back. When you first realize your hands aren't as strong as they used to be, it's easy to shrug it off as a minor annoyance, something you can fix if you want to. That was exactly how I felt when my grip started slipping. I was determined not to let this slow decline get the better of me. After all, I'd always been the sort who liked to fix things, whether it was a leaky faucet, a wobbly chair, or a family problem. So, when my hands began letting me down, I decided to get to work. I started with the obvious: exercises. There are plenty of hand-strengthening routines you can find online, promising to restore your grip in just minutes a day. I downloaded a few printouts, watched videos, and even bought one of those rubbery stress balls meant to build up your grip. Every morning, I'd sit at the kitchen table, dutifully squeezing that little ball, counting to 10, then 20, then 30. For a while, it felt like I was doing something good. But after a week or two, the novelty wore off. I'd skip a day, then another. Some mornings my hands ached more than before, and I wondered if I was making things worse instead of better. Next came the supplements. Vitamin bottles lined up on my kitchen counter, each promising some miracle for aging bodies. Magnesium for cramps, calcium for bones, and B vitamins for nerves. It all sounded promising, and I'm sure there's a place for these nutrients, but taking a handful of pills every day quickly became a chore. I worried about how they might interact with my prescriptions. Some days I remembered, other days I forgot. After a few weeks, I wasn't sure anything had changed. After that, physical therapy. My doctor, always thorough, recommended I try a series of sessions at a local rehab clinic. I went week after week, working with a cheerful young therapist who guided my hands through gentle stretches and exercises. She was encouraging and patient, but between the co-pays, the drive across town, and the feeling that I was the oldest person in the waiting room, I started to dread the appointments. Sometimes I came home sore, other times simply tired. I knew the intention was good, but I just didn't see lasting results. It felt like every gain I made at the clinic was gone by the next morning, as if my hands had a mind of their own. I also tried gadgets, those funny-looking hand grippers from the sporting goods store, foam putty to knead while watching TV, and an old set of small dumbbells I found in my son's closet. Each new tool brought a spark of hope, and for a while, I told myself that progress was just around the corner. But again, I'd lose interest, or my hands would start aching, or life would get in the way. It's hard to stay motivated when the results don't come, or when the exercises themselves feel like punishment for getting older. One afternoon, as I sat in my recliner rubbing my palms, I felt a wave of frustration. It wasn't just the effort that wore me down, it was the feeling of chasing solutions that never stuck. I realized that, for all my efforts, I was treating my hands like a project to be managed, rather than a part of myself to be cared for and supported. All those fancy routines and supplements felt like just another thing on my never-ending list, another reminder that my body wasn't cooperating. It's easy to feel defeated when nothing seems to work. I started questioning myself. Was I not trying hard enough? Was it too late? Should I just accept this and stop fighting? I hated those thoughts, but they crept in whenever I struggled with the simplest tasks. Folding laundry, buttoning a shirt, zipping up a coat, little things that added up to a daily reminder of what I'd lost. My confidence slipped along with my grip. At the same time, I noticed something else. The more complicated the solution, the less likely I was to stick with it. The exercises, the appointments, the gadgets, they all took time, energy, or money I didn't always have. And honestly, the more something felt like work, the less I wanted to do it. What I needed wasn't another big commitment or complicated regimen. I needed something simple, something natural, something that would fit quietly into my everyday routine, almost without thinking about it. I wanted a change that felt as easy and comforting as a warm cup of coffee in the morning, not another chore. As I started looking for answers, I noticed a quiet truth about aging. The solutions that last are the ones that don't feel like work. They become part of who you are, something you do because it feels good and makes sense, not because someone told you to. I remember how my grandmother used to say, "The best medicine is the one you enjoy taking." She lived well into her 90s, swearing by simple routines and healthy snacks. Maybe there was something to that old wisdom. So, I paused. Instead of chasing after the next new thing, I asked myself, what's one small, enjoyable change I could make? Something that would nourish my hands and my spirit, without all the fuss? I wanted to return to basics, something that would feel less like treatment, and more like a gentle act of self-care. That's when I stumbled upon a different approach. Not another gadget, not another pill, but a change so natural it almost seemed too easy. I started paying attention to what I ate, thinking about what might be missing from my diet, and how food could quietly support my health. The more I read, the more I realized that certain foods, especially those rich in essential minerals and healthy fats, could do more for my hands than all the stress balls and supplements combined. It felt like a revelation. Instead of adding more work, why not add more nourishment? Instead of punishing myself with another routine I'd abandon, why not treat myself to something enjoyable that could help? The idea of healing my hands from the inside out was both comforting and empowering. I didn't need to overhaul my life or follow some complicated plan. I just needed to find a way to support my body in the most natural, consistent way possible. One evening, while having dinner with an old friend, I shared my frustrations. He nodded, sharing that he too had tried everything, only to give up in disappointment. But then he told me about his wife, who had started adding a handful of pumpkin seeds to her meals every day, on cereal, in salads, even as a snack while reading the newspaper. "It's simple," he said, "and it doesn't feel like medicine. You just enjoy it, and let your body do the rest." That night, I thought about how I'd been making things harder than they needed to be. Maybe the solution I was looking for didn't have to be complicated or expensive. Maybe, like so many things in life, the answer was hiding in plain sight. In the end, what I learned was this: real, lasting change doesn't come from making your life harder. It comes from making your life better, one simple, enjoyable step at a time. I stopped searching for miracles and started focusing on what felt good, what fit naturally into my days, and what left me looking forward to tomorrow instead of dreading another failed attempt. If you've ever felt frustrated by all the promises that don't pan out, if you're tired of routines that feel like punishment instead of help, you're not alone. I was there too. It's okay to want something easier, something more joyful. Sometimes, the best solution is the one that feels so simple that you almost can't believe it will work. But those are often the ones that last. So, as you search for ways to regain your strength, don't be afraid to let go of what doesn't work. Listen to your body. Permit yourself to make it easy. You deserve a solution that fits you, not the other way around. After all, isn't life too short to spend it chasing after frustration? Let's choose a path that brings a little comfort, a little hope, and a little joy back into our days. Sometimes, that's all it takes. After months of frustration, endless exercises, pills, and gadgets that didn't quite do the trick, I was ready to give up. But then, something unexpected happened. One afternoon, during a casual conversation with my daughter, she mentioned how she had started adding a small handful of pumpkin seeds to her daily meals. At first, I barely paid attention. Seeds? How could something so simple make a difference? I thought about the expensive supplements and physical therapy sessions I had invested in, and it felt almost laughable. But my daughter explained it with such enthusiasm that I decided to dig a little deeper. I learned that pumpkin seeds, also called pepitas, are more than just a tasty snack. They're a powerhouse packed with nutrients that our bodies especially crave as we get older. For starters, pumpkin seeds are rich in magnesium. Now, magnesium might sound like a boring mineral, but it plays a starring role in muscle function, nerve signaling, and energy production. As we age, many people don't get enough magnesium in their diets, which can lead to muscle cramps, weakness, and fatigue. That's why supplementing this mineral naturally through food can have a surprisingly strong effect on how your muscles perform, including those all-important muscles in your hands. Beyond magnesium, pumpkin seeds are a great source of zinc. Zinc supports immune function and helps repair damaged tissues, which is crucial for older adults who want to maintain strength and recover more quickly from the minor aches and strains of daily life. It's also involved in nerve health, meaning that the signals your brain sends to your hands can be sharper and more reliable when you have enough zinc in your system. But it doesn't stop there. These seeds are also loaded with healthy fats, mostly omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, which help reduce inflammation in the body. Inflammation is a silent enemy that contributes to joint pain, stiffness, and even muscle loss. By eating foods that calm inflammation naturally, you're giving your body a better chance to hold on to strength and mobility. Last but not least, pumpkin seeds provide a good amount of plant-based protein. Protein is the building block of muscle, and older adults especially need to make sure they're eating enough to counteract muscle loss due to aging, a process called sarcopenia. Protein helps repair muscles after use, strengthens connective tissue, and supports overall muscle health. Learning all this was a revelation. Suddenly, what had seemed like a small, simple snack turned into a real tool I could use to support my body's strength from the inside out. Unlike pills or complicated regimens, pumpkin seeds felt like something I could easily add to my daily routine without stress or hassle. So, I decided to give it a try. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. The first few days, I sprinkled them onto my oatmeal, added a handful to my afternoon salads, and kept a small jar on my coffee table for snacking. The taste was mild and pleasant, nutty, a little crunchy, and I found myself looking forward to those little bites throughout the day. As the weeks went by, I began to notice subtle but meaningful changes. My hands felt less stiff in the morning. Opening jars didn't require as much struggle. I could grip the handles of my gardening tools more firmly. These improvements weren't dramatic overnight miracles, but steady and encouraging progress. What I love most about this discovery is how natural it felt. No pills to remember, no timers or special equipment. Just a handful of seeds, quietly working behind the scenes, helping my muscles and nerves in ways I hadn't expected. It gave me hope and a renewed sense of control over my health. If you're wondering how exactly pumpkin seeds do all this, it's really about giving your body the nutrients it needs to work well. Muscle strength depends not only on exercise but on the raw materials your body uses to build and repair itself. Magnesium keeps those muscles relaxing and contracting properly. Zinc helps with tissue repair and nerve signaling. Healthy fats lower inflammation, reducing pain and stiffness, and protein provides the foundation for muscle growth. All of these components are especially important as we get older because the body's ability to absorb nutrients and repair itself naturally slows down. By including foods like pumpkin seeds, you're helping your body fight back against that natural decline. Of course, pumpkin seeds aren't the only food with these benefits. Other nutrient-dense options like fermented soybeans, natto, walnuts, flax seeds, and sunflower seeds can also support muscle and nerve health. But what makes pumpkin seeds stand out for me is how easy and enjoyable they are to incorporate into everyday meals. So if you're tired of feeling like your hands are weaker every day, if you want a simple, natural way to give your muscles a little extra help, consider adding pumpkin seeds to your diet. It might seem like a small step, but sometimes the smallest changes lead to the biggest results. I'm living proof that even at 85, a little shift in nutrition can help you regain strength, confidence, and independence. And who wouldn't want that? When I first started adding pumpkin seeds to my daily meals, I wasn't sure what to expect. I mean, how could a handful of seeds make a difference after all those years of frustration? I kept my hopes realistic, thinking maybe it would help a little, but I braced myself not to be disappointed. The first week passed quietly. I kept up the habit, sprinkling seeds into my oatmeal, adding them to my salads, and sometimes just snacking on them while watching TV. My hands still felt the same, a bit stiff and weak in the mornings. But I reminded myself, that real change takes time. By the second week, I started to notice subtle differences. One morning, I reached for my coffee mug and realized I could grip it without that familiar wobble. It wasn't a dramatic transformation yet, but it was enough to spark hope. That day, I opened the kitchen drawer to grab a pair of scissors and found that my fingers were more responsive, and my grip steadier. It felt like I was slowly coming back to myself. By the third week, these little victories started to add up. I was no longer dropping my favorite cup or fumbling with the lid on my peanut butter jar. I could twist open jars and bottles with less effort, and I even found myself picking up gardening tools without hesitation. The garden, which I had neglected for a while because of sore, weak hands, suddenly seemed inviting again. It wasn't just about physical strength. It was about how these changes made me feel. I felt more confident, less worried about everyday tasks that used to frustrate me. The improvement wasn't perfect, but it was steady, and that steadiness made all the difference. I was no longer afraid of losing control. I was regaining it, bit by bit. I also noticed that my hands felt less stiff in the mornings. The aches that used to greet me when I woke up were fading. I could stretch my fingers more easily, and simple movements like buttoning my shirt or tying my shoes weren't a struggle anymore. My hands felt alive and capable, ready for whatever the day might bring. Friends and family began to notice too. My daughter mentioned that I seemed more active and in better spirits. My neighbor, who often helped me with chores, said I was handling things on my own more and more. Those small acknowledgments made me proud and motivated me to keep going. I want to be clear. This wasn't a miracle cure or overnight fix. The transformation took time, patience, and consistency. But it showed me that even after 80, our bodies can respond and heal in meaningful ways, if we give them the right support. There's something powerful about regaining a part of yourself you thought was gone. It's not just physical strength, it's independence, dignity, and the joy of doing everyday things on your terms. I remember one particular afternoon in my garden. I was pruning my rose bushes, something I hadn't done in years. My hands gripped the shears firmly. My fingers moved with precision. I felt alive, connected to the earth and to life itself. That moment felt like a quiet victory, A reminder that age is just a number, not a limit. If you're watching this and feeling discouraged by your struggles with hand strength, I want you to know this: real, positive change is possible. You don't have to settle for frustration or fear. A simple, natural change, like adding nutrient-rich foods to your diet, can make a difference over time. Take it from someone who's been there, who's faced the same challenges, and who found hope and strength again. It all starts with a small step. Maybe today, it's reaching for a handful of pumpkin seeds or another nourishing snack. Your hands and your life are worth that effort. Keep going. You can regain your grip, your confidence, and your independence. And with every small victory, you're proving to yourself just how strong you are. After experiencing the positive changes from adding pumpkin seeds to my diet, I know many of you are wondering, okay, but how much should I eat? And how do I fit this into my daily routine without making things complicated? These are important questions, and I want to share everything I've learned to make this as simple and doable as possible. First, the good news. You don't need a huge amount to start seeing benefits. About 1 ounce a day, roughly a small handful or a quarter cup, is a perfect amount for most seniors. That's roughly equivalent to about 85 pumpkin seeds. It's a manageable portion that provides a solid boost of magnesium, zinc, protein, and healthy fats without overwhelming your diet. Now, how do you add them to your meals without feeling like you're forcing yourself to eat something unfamiliar? One of the best things about pumpkin seeds is how versatile and easy they are to use. For breakfast, try sprinkling a tablespoon or two on top of your oatmeal or cereal. They add a pleasant crunch and a subtle nutty flavor that complements many morning dishes. If you prefer yogurt, pumpkin seeds make a delicious topping there too, especially with a little honey or fresh fruit mixed in. They blend well with almost any creamy base. If smoothies are your thing, toss in a handful of pumpkin seeds before blending. They add texture and nutrition without altering the flavor too much. You can also mix them into baked goods like muffins or homemade granola bars if you enjoy baking. The options are endless, and once you start experimenting, you might find new favorite ways to enjoy them. For a quick snack, keep a small jar or container of roasted pumpkin seeds handy. They're easy to munch on while watching TV, reading a book, or chatting with friends. Just remember to opt for unsalted or lightly salted varieties to keep sodium intake in check, especially if you're watching your blood pressure. Speaking of health, it's important to talk about safety and considerations before making any significant changes to your diet. Pumpkin seeds are generally safe for most people, but if you have specific health conditions, like high blood pressure, kidney issues, or allergies, it's a good idea to check with your healthcare provider first. Because pumpkin seeds contain natural minerals like potassium and magnesium, they can affect certain medications or health conditions if consumed in large amounts. Also, if you're on blood-thinning medications, it's wise to discuss pumpkin seeds with your doctor, as these seeds contain vitamin K, which can influence how blood clots. But don't let that worry you. With a little guidance, incorporating pumpkin seeds can be safe and beneficial. One of the best things about this approach is how gentle and flexible it is. There's no pressure to overhaul your diet overnight or follow strict rules. You're simply adding a small, nutrient-rich food that supports your muscles and nerves, helping you regain strength gradually and naturally. For those who might find it difficult to choose seeds, you can grind them into a fine powder using a small blender or food processor and mix the powder into smoothies, yogurt, or soups. This way, you still get all the benefits without any discomfort. If pumpkin seeds aren't available or not your favorite, other seeds like sunflower, flax, or chia seeds can offer similar nutrients. The key is finding what fits your taste and lifestyle best. Remember, the goal here isn't perfection. It's about making a positive, manageable change that feels good and lasts. You're giving your body the tools it needs to support muscle function, reduce inflammation, and boost overall hand strength, all in a way that's easy and enjoyable. So, to recap, aim for about 1 ounce of pumpkin seeds daily, sprinkle or mix them into your meals however you like, keep your portions reasonable, and always check with your doctor if you have any concerns. This simple habit could be the gentle boost your hands need to get stronger and more reliable again. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Starting something new can sometimes feel overwhelming, but with pumpkin seeds, it's as simple as adding a handful here and there. Over time, those little seeds can add up to real, lasting strength. Permit yourself to try it out, and be patient with the process. Every small step counts on the journey to feeling stronger and more independent. You've got this. As encouraging as my journey has been, I want you to know that this small change isn't just my story. It's been a turning point for friends around me too. Sometimes, we need to see someone we know and trust find success before we believe it's possible for ourselves. Let me tell you about my neighbor and good friend, Bill. Bill is the kind of fellow who never liked to sit still. He's always been happiest with a wrench in one hand and a project on the go. For decades, he fixed up old bikes for kids in the neighborhood. He'd find broken-down bicycles at garage sales, bring them back to life, and pass them on to his grandkids or donate them to local families. Bill's garage was always a hive of cheerful activity. The clang of tools, the smell of oil, and the laughter of children riding their new bikes for the first time. But in the last couple of years, I watched Bill slow down. It started with little things: a missed bolt, a dropped screwdriver, a sigh when his hands cramped up after only a few minutes of work. I could see the frustration on his face, the quiet embarrassment when he had to ask for help. He'd always prided himself on his self-reliance, so it hit him hard when simple repairs became difficult. Soon, the bike started gathering dust in his garage, and Bill spent more time in his favorite chair, and less time out in the world. We talked about it over coffee one morning. Bill admitted that he felt like a piece of himself was slipping away, that every time his hands let him down, he wondered if he'd ever get back to doing the things he loved. "I guess this is just how it is," he told me, trying to sound casual. But I could hear the sadness underneath. That's when I shared what I'd been doing with pumpkin seeds. I explained how I'd started eating a small handful every day and how, over a few weeks, I noticed my grip getting stronger, my hands less stiff, and my mood lighter. Bill was skeptical at first. He chuckled and said, "I've tried everything, you know. Squeeze balls, gadgets, even some hand cream my daughter gave me." But I could see a glimmer of curiosity behind his smile. I gave him a bag of roasted pumpkin seeds and told him, "Just try it. Add a handful to your breakfast, or snack on them while you read the paper. Don't think of it as a chore, just something you do for yourself." Bill shrugged, but I saw him take that bag home. A week or two went by, and we didn't talk much about it. Then one Saturday morning, I heard the familiar sound of a wrench clinking on metal coming from Bill's garage. When I wandered over, I found him kneeling beside an old blue bike, hands steady on the handlebars, his toolbox open and tidy beside him. He looked up, grinned, and waved me in. "Guess who just fixed a flat tire all by himself?" Bill said with a laugh. "I haven't done that in months." He stood up and flexed his fingers, and I could see the pride on his face. "You know, I do feel a difference. My hands don't ache so much, and I don't get those cramps when I tighten bolts anymore. The grandkids will be over this afternoon to pick up their bikes. I promised them a ride." As the weeks passed, Bill's confidence came back. He returned to his old habits, chatting with neighbors in the driveway, fixing things for friends, giving bikes away to the kids next door. His wife told me he was sleeping better and seemed happier, more himself. There was new energy in his step, and a spark of the old Bill shone through every time he finished a project. What struck me most was how this small change rippled through his life. It wasn't just about fixing bikes. It was about reclaiming the independence that made him who he was. Bill wasn't simply stronger in his hands. He was stronger in his spirit. He'd gotten back something so many of us fear losing as we age. The sense that we can still contribute, still create, and still be relied on. We talked about this, sitting in the shade on his porch one evening. "You know," Bill said, "it's not just the hands. It's everything. I feel like I'm part of things again. Like I've got my freedom back." I nodded because I knew exactly what he meant. That's the beauty of these simple habits. They don't just change our bodies, they touch every part of our lives. Regaining strength is about more than opening jars or carrying groceries. It's about opening doors to new activities, deeper relationships, and a renewed sense of purpose. So, if you're watching this and wondering if a handful of seeds could make a difference, remember Bill's story. Remember that what seems small can add up to something powerful. It's never too late to start, and it's never too late to rediscover your strength. We didn't just regain the ability to grip a tool or turn a wrench. We regained our confidence, our independence, and our place in the world. Sometimes, That starts with something as simple as a handful of pumpkin seeds and the willingness to believe that change is possible. And that's what I wish for you, for all of us. To keep reaching, keep fixing, and keep living life on our terms. You never know what you'll get back until you try. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you for spending your time with me and for being open to new possibilities. Losing strength in your hands, or anywhere else, can feel discouraging, but it doesn't have to be the end of your story. I hope what I've shared today reminds you that even small, simple changes can create real improvements, no matter your age. Adding a handful of pumpkin seeds to my daily routine helped me regain not just grip strength, but also a sense of confidence and freedom I thought I'd lost. I saw the same transformation in my friend Bill, and I believe it can happen to you too. This journey isn't about chasing perfection or turning back the clock. It's about making the most of each day and finding practical ways to take back a little control. Remember, you don't need fancy equipment or complicated routines to make a difference. Sometimes, the solution is as humble as the food on your plate and as steady as the habits you build. If you're struggling, don't give up. Start with something easy. Talk to your doctor, try adding some pumpkin seeds, and see how you feel in a few weeks. Celebrate every small victory. Most of all, know that you're not alone. We're all on this path together, learning, growing, and supporting each other along the way. If you've learned something new or want to share your own story, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. Together, we can keep building a stronger, healthier community, one simple step at a time.